Last Minute Man, and we are back here today at the Man Cave. I'm with my good buddy, Mr. Obvious. And Mr. Obvious, what have you brought us today? What are we talking about?
Communications might be very important someday.
Yep. So this is something we've been wanting to do for a long time, or I've been wanting to do it. My whole concept behind this channel was always just to show things to people that were interested, things for possibly survival, farming. You know, guns are a big part of what we do because, you know, it's a hobby Mr. Obvious and I both have. But when you've got all the food you need, you got your shelter, you got your water, you know, communication is a big factor. It's something that's very important. You know, the snowstorm of the decade comes and you're pinned in your home. You know, you want to know what's going on. You want to be able to communicate with people. So you got your generator and you're running a small home setup. I just asked Mr. Obvious, you know, if I wanted to get started and get something going, what would I do? So we're going to go through that with you here today and kind of look at, he's got all kinds of equipment ranging from expensive to affordable and for any budget. But, you know, you were saying antenna is the biggest thing.
Yeah, gotta have a good antenna.
And we don't have an antenna set up outside yet.
No.
For your new home here. But I'll bring you in and we'll look at some of the stuff and I'll try to ask the right questions. But if I don't ask the right thing, Mr. Obvious knows the stuff. You are a ham radio operator and he's got all that knowledge. So I don't even know what to ask. But let's get into this. Okay, Mr. Obvious, so we're looking at your setup here, and, you know, first things first, tell us about the antenna.
Yep. First thing, you need a good antenna to get range. A mobile antenna might get you up 4 or 5 miles. So you get a good base antenna, like an IMAX 2000, or even get into expensive stuff, beams, then you're going to start getting into a little bit of money, technology, know-how. You may need help with it. You can find stuff online and equipment you need to set it up. Setting your standing wave, which is your SWR, got to be matched to your radio. So get started, get a good antenna. Like I said, if you want to go cheap, fiberglass antenna, IMAX 2000 is a great choice. They're probably going to run you between nowadays $100 $150 bucks. I have seen them on eBay. You might have a local CD shop somewhere that works on them.
Or even a truck stop. Don't they sell a lot of that?
Truck stop, you can get mobile stuff, a lot of mobile antennas, mobile radios. About any truck stop, you can get Cobra products, Galaxy, stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Once you get into this. So that's starting out with the cheaper side of it, you know.
Okay.
Get an antenna like that and get it up in there, you know, at least, well, higher the better, I can tell you. Higher you go, better you receive, better you can transmit.
So on top of your house, typically?
Get up there 30, 40 feet, you know, you're usually good. So you can take like a mobile antenna, then go to that antenna, then you can take a 4-watt radio and probably talk 30 mile on it.
Really? So that's pretty awesome. Yeah. So what are we talking? You know, you've got some, like you said, less expensive options here.
Like these little Cobra radios or Unit N or something like that. Little cheap radios you can set up with either a battery pack. You can see they can plug into your car. You can run out to your car and talk, communicate a little bit. You can pick these up flea market. I've seen them anywhere from $8 to $20. It's according to what they want for it.
Now, if I wanted to run off my home power, you know, AC versus DC, can these do that?
Yeah, with a power supply. So, all right. Now you're going to need a power supply. So to run the mobile radio in your house. So you can buy them. You can get little like 5 amp ones. Radio Shack used to sell them. This is a Radio Shack brand. You can buy pyramids. You can buy these off eBay, by Amazon, wherever you want. And so you can get this one. This one here is a 14 amp. So this run probably this little 4 or 5 amp or run a little small, just standard 4-watt radio. If you got anything that's any more powerful than that, then you need to start stepping up to more power supply.
Now this one over
amps.
here, you were telling me about.
Yeah, this is a 10 meter. This is a Palomar Elite 500 10 meter base station power supply and amplifier.
Okay.
So this one here is actually got a like a 25 amp power supply built in it. Then you can also turn off and on. This is power on and off. Then this is the preamp on and off, and it's low, medium, and high. Then this is power supply, turn it on. So then you'll have power supply to run your CB. Plus, you run a 10 meter, you can hook your 10 meter rig into the back of this, and you can have 500 watts power for 10 meter.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
as far as FCC regulations, because this stuff is still regulated by the FCC.
Yeah.
So, what would get you in trouble here? Would any of this get you in trouble? Or
Yeah.
is this not even anything to be concerned about?
Well, getting on outside of your 10 meter band is whatever you took the class for. You know, got your license to run 10 meter, 6 meter, or whatever meter you trained on. But each meter you step up in, then you got to take another test.
Okay.
So then you get into a certain amount of wattage too that you can run, which usually I think 1500 watts is max limit on the on running ham.
So an amateur starting out with this though, and I'm just wanting to run and communicate within 20 miles. So we're talking radio setup like you showed the cheaper mobile radios there. And then you need a power source, but what power range do I need to stay in?
Yeah, well, first of all, yeah, the cheaper stuff is the regular CB radio. You're only allowed 4 watts. That's FCC
Gotcha.
rule regulation. You do not need a license for that.
Roger.
But you got to stay within 27 megacycle too, which is 11 meter. And so that's 11 meter band. That's 1 through 40 channels.
Okay, so just listening though, because we're setting up for an emergency scenario where I want to be able to hear what's going on out there. I want to be able to hear if rescue operations are happening, things like that. Is that illegal to listen?
No, no. You can have pretty much what you want. What gets illegal is using it.
Roger.
Yeah,
So if you're keying up over
Yeah.
them, and you hear about like pirate radio in the past where people would overtake an FM radio station, that's the kind of stuff that'll really get you bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, owning equipment is not illegal, but actually using equipment outside what your license say, that's what gets illegal.
Okay.
Or transmitting on frequencies you ain't supposed to be on. So.
Well, what I've come to find is in recent years, it seems like everything's digital. So it doesn't seem like this stuff's as heavily guarded as it used to be.
No,
people don't seem to be using it like they used to.
Well, you get to a lot of these ham operators, I'm probably going to make some of them mad saying this if they ever see this video, but they go out and they'll turn in a CB radio, regular CB 11 meter band. They'll turn you into the FCC, I mean like right now.
If you're communicating outside of
Yeah. They love doing that. They like protecting their frequencies, their channels. But, to me, I'm just an old soft hillbilly. As long as you're on there and you ain't cussing, disturbing this and that, or doing stupid stuff, I kind of let it go. But you got some guys, I took the test. I'm over you. I'm a big shot guy now.
That's funny.
And they will burn. I don't play that game.
Yeah.
If they want to, go ahead. I mean, that's your business. But as long as they ain't on there doing what they ain't supposed to be doing. So,
right.
But,
somebody looking for communication in hard times, or like I said, just knowing what's going on out there.
Yeah.
I think you're probably not the type of person that's going to be causing an issue anyway.
Yeah, you can usually pick them up pretty quick. They don't have a call sign. They're on there, this, that. So once you get your ham operator license, you've got a call sign you use. So
Roger.
you'd be spitting out there like what is that? BR549 on Hee Haw. That's my call sign. But you know, you'll have a call sign with numbers and letters like that. So,
right. Gotcha.
But that's it. Yep. What other questions you got?
All right. And at any time, Mr. Obvious, if I'm not asking the right thing, by all means, interrupt and interject. But I'm curious what this big sucker right there is.
That is a 10 meter amplifier.
And what does that do?
It gives you extra wattage. You know, that thing it put out like bird watts. So if you got a bird watt meter and you're running 10 meters, so you get a watt meter, and you get your watt meter hooked into this, you can this thing will put out like probably 400 bird watts. So
now explain what a bird watt is. I've never heard that before.
Oh, bird watt?
Yeah.
Well, let's go by bird meter. So you got peak meter reading and you got bird meter reading.
Okay.
So this actually reads and peak the actual wattage. Then you got other meters. Let's see if I got one here. Yeah, I got an old school here. This is a good meter. But this meter here,
It's neat looking.
yeah, this meter here will actually get in. This reads peak, so it's peak. So you know you may have a radio that keys up 50 watts and swing up 300-400 watts. So, and this will show you peak. But actually, if you put it on the bird meter, you may be keying up maybe a watt or two on bird it's showing, and actually swinging up. I'd say probably 50 watts bird. So, you know.
All right. Now, I think this is pretty neat, Mr. Obvious. This actually looks like a vehicle setup we had in the military. Looks a lot like it. It's just a Hoss here. What exactly is this?
This is your CB radio. This is a Galaxy Saturn. This one here is. Now this one's actually set up to monitored 11 meters. So this is actually CB band 1 through 40. There's channel 1 and there's channel 40. So it'll slide through all of them. Now you can go upper and lower sideband too. So it's just sideband of the channel.
How far?
You can probably talk 4 or 5 miles on that little mobile antenna.
Gotcha.
This. And then you get a big base antenna, you know, you can talk probably 40 miles off of it.
And you know, you really only see those in the country. You'll drive down these country roads and stuff, and there'll be the big tower right next to somebody's house.
Yeah.
And you know that guy's a radio guy.
Your radio
when you
guy.
see that.
Yeah. So you know him, he's a radio guy. But you get your antenna, you have to have an SWR meter, or you'll have to get somebody that's got one of these antenna analyzers to actually set it up. Now I use this one to build antennas. I build antennas from scratch. So I just get me a bunch of aluminum and a bunch of fiberglass and start putting it together and make me a pole and make me an X on it and run my wire around, and they call it a quad antenna. So I can actually set the SWR on.
And again, Mr. Obvious, in a without rule of law scenario, okay, where I gotta also worry about possibly bad actors. Okay, so if I'm wanting to communicate, every time I key that mic, people can get my location. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, they can. They're close enough to you. They've got SWR meters that's actually got a signal strength meter built into it.
Gotcha.
So you use that signal strength meter and actually hook that to a beam, and you can turn it and see that signal strength come up and down and kind of get their
general
direction they're coming.
All right, and we're back with our after action report.
Yeah.
And Mr. Obvious, I got to report something.
Mm-hmm.
I know very little about this stuff, and you're helping me understand it. And this is very interesting to me. I don't know how this plays on the YouTube audience, but I hope you guys are learning something. Or, you know, I don't think... I'm sorry, I don't know exactly what to ask. But, yeah, you've got so much knowledge on this, I think it's important that people do know and that it does get handed down, because the day may come where communication is very difficult. And I saw the movie The Postman.
Oh, yeah.
And that was important communication.
Yeah. They had no communication, so they had to travel from town to town to find out what's going on.
Yeah, and it's important to keep yourself, I guess, aware, of what's going on around you if something bad should happen. I mean, I'm talking something as simple as, you live in Florida, hurricanes, break out, things like that. It's good to be able to communicate and say, hey, I'm here, having an emergency radio in case of a tornado, things like that. And we're living in, I'm not trying to be scary or spooky or anything here, but we are living in some pretty weird times.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, we are. You're an outdoorsman, a woods guy. You're probably on the same level we're on, I mean, not that it's better or worse. It's just, we're simple people. And I don't concern myself or get involved in crazy things, but people are getting crazy. And you've got these riots, and you've got theft, and you've got, every bad thing in the world happening right now. And people that live in areas where they can't defend themselves, you need to get out of there. And, but these are all things that concern me. And I think more and more people are losing just general basic knowledge on things. And like myself, I know nothing about these, so I want to learn. Yeah.
If you want to get technical, you really want to get into it. Now, I've got down here in this box on the floor, I've got my ham stuff put up.
Yeah.
You want to get more expensive radio and spend some money, you can buy ICOM, you can buy Yazoo, you can buy Kenwood, all that, and some of you ham operators will know what I'm talking about. So,
I don't have a clue. I've heard of Kenwood.
Yeah, so we displayed these today for just the simple people. What can you go buy?
Like me. Yeah.
Something cheap to be able to get out there and communicate.
Yeah, and I'm looking, Mr. Obvious and I live within 20 miles of each other. I think it's about that. And I'm looking at, I've got family around, and Mr. Obvious and I are the only two people I know that really prepare for things. Whether it's, the gun stuff is an important factor, but also food preparation and all that. I remember we got with a church group one time, and they were asking us different things, and Mr. Obvious started showing them how to preserve and store food. And one of the guys started laughing, and he said, when am I ever going to need that? And Mr. Obvious looked at him and he said, you better know it. He said, because I ain't going to feed you. That's what he told him. Yeah. And it was sometimes the stuff people aren't, they just think the grocery store is always going to be there. And, here we are talking about a possible railroad strike. And, I mean, these are self-inflicted wounds, really. Yeah. But if that does happen, watch how quick people panic. I don't think people realize, when I was in the military, we would run drills on, different scenarios. But what I can tell you is they've put a lot of research into this. You are 3 to 4 meals away from, I'm talking apocalyptic, people going nuts. Okay? You saw what happened after Hurricane Katrina. You had law enforcement lose their collective minds. Mm-hmm. They were taking over people's homes at gunpoint and boarding themselves up. I mean, they acted like the government was never coming back. People went bonkers. And I'm telling you, I don't care how good you think your neighbors are. If they're starving, okay, they're not going to be your buddies if they know you got food. I mean, that's a fact. So the goal is to educate people around you and have them be prepared. Don't be the only guy in the neighborhood with the generator if you live in a neighborhood. Talk to people about this. Be serious about it. And talk to people. If it's with your church group, your book club, whatever. I think it's so important. Communication. Right now, it's easy to communicate. So get this stuff out. Like I said, whether it's food preparation, self-defense, ammunition, how to skin a buck, man. I mean, how many people don't know that in today's world? I mean, people like us, there's a lot of guys like us. But like my nephew, I made it a point, no one else would teach this kid this stuff, and they got a hunger for it. They really do want to know. I mean, that's a good thing for kids to be doing. It's know where your food's coming from, and know how it's processed. I made him process out his first 2 deer. And, we skinned it, cut all the meat off, everything ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I think that is so important for people to learn, know how to do it. Like, and we're getting a little long-winded here, but I think it's important to mention. Mr. Obvious and I were having a discussion about natural resources. We've got so many deer and squirrel and rabbits. Well, you don't have to go back very far in American U.S. history. During the Great Depression, there was no wild game. I was listening to one guy, and he was talking about recalling the Great Depression, and he was saying you couldn't even hear birds. There were no birds. People were killing and eating whatever they could get. Yeah. Because they were starving. And it wasn't that long ago, folks. I mean, my grandfather lived through that. I mean, he's a World War II vet. Your dad lived through it. And, of course, they were poor people living in the hills. They didn't know what happened. To them, it was just Wednesday. But
it happened overnight.
Yeah.
Everybody, when the Great Depression hit, everybody went to bed that night. Everything was fine. When they woke up the next morning, all HELL broke loose. And it's just like that.
Boom. And it can be just like that. And like I said, this railroad strike, if it does happen, like I said, it's a self-inflicted wound. But watch how quick people get silly. I mean, we all lived through the shenanigans of 2019, 2020. Mm-hmm. You couldn't get toilet paper. Remember that? And I was laughing. People were losing their minds, fighting over toilet paper. I'm like, it's if somebody's willing to fight you over the last roll of toilet paper in the grocery store, what do you think they're going to do over the last loaf of bread? And it can happen, and it can happen quick. And all these are self-inflicted wounds. If people just prepare themselves, and you've been hearing this, I'm not the first and only guy that's ever said this. If you're watching this, you've probably heard it before. You've thought about it yourself. Listen, folks, you don't have to go buy this expensive freeze-dried, food that's in these Tupperware containers. Canned goods. Spam. Oh my gosh. I look on the back. Mm-hmm. Now everybody's like, oh man, look at the sodium and all that. Trust me, when you're starving, that stuff will keep you sustained. Yeah. Potted meat, I'm telling you guys, is probably the best bang for the buck. And packed with calories, packed with protein, that'll keep you going.
Yeah, that and spam. I mean,
spam, yeah.
You can live a long time.
Yeah, and so all these are just, and we can do more videos like this where we discuss our own personal. I could take you into my pantry and show you what I've got. I'm pretty much prepared for 2 years. I'd say I could make it, and take care of the people I care about. And Mr. Obvious is prepared the same way. And, on top of that, having the knowledge to can goods, knowing how to can, getting you a pressure canner. There's just so much one could talk about. And, knowing where to get fresh water, in the woods. And
I got 3 cured out hams laying right
there. Yeah, he gave me, I think 3 or 4.
3 of them,
yeah. And because they're starting to get to the point you gotta use them. Mm-hmm. So and so you replenish things, and as you go, and you use your canned goods. I know spaghetti sauce, things like that. I'm real, and the reason I bring that up is somebody I know. They've got all the spaghetti sauce in the world anybody would ever want. I'm like, but all your shelf space is taken up with something that's not nutrient dense that you don't need. Yeah. Nice to have some spaghetti sauce with your pasta, but what's more important is having the pasta and having the rice and things like that. If you're going to have rice, have beans with it, and then you got a complete protein. Things like that. You got to think about these things.
I like carrying Worcestershire sauce, teriyaki sauce, stuff like that.
You can preserve meat, salt.
Yeah, you take that and take deer meat, rabbit, squirrel, whatever, and buy you bags of rice and have some rice and deer and rice and turkey or chicken or whatever, and got teriyaki and Worcestershire.
Let me tell you something.
Flavor it up and good eating.
In ancient Greece, in ancient Rome, there are coins. I think Nero's on them, and they're coins that are made of salt. Salt is such a valuable commodity. You will die without it. You have to have salt in your diet. And see, this is stuff people have forgotten because it's so abundant and available now. I'm telling you, when times get hard, have salt stored up. I mean, you can cure meat with it. You know, season your food. It's enjoyable, and it's something that you have to have. When you're talking about bartering, oh my God, watch when people really start going hungry and people start getting scurvy and things like that because they're so malnourished.
Yeah,
and that's where all that comes from. You know, scurvy. Everybody thinks it's a vitamin C thing. It's a eating non-nutrient dense foods. You know, eating just bread or something like that. Your teeth will fall out.
Yeah, I mean, it don't hurt to keep canning salt on hand too.
Yeah, that's an important one.
Make sauerkraut and stuff. Sauerkraut's so easy to make.
Very easy. I make it all the time.
Yeah, very easy to make sauerkraut.
Yeah, and I love it. I sauerkraut and smoked sausage, man.
Just chop your cabbage up, put it in a jar, and fill it full of water, and put a teaspoon, a can of salt in there, and leave the lid loose.
Let it burp it.
Yeah, let it sit there and work for 3 days, and tighten your lid down.
And then once it's fermented, you can can it, and then it'll last as long as that seal's on there, pretty much.
Yeah,
you know,
just easy.
And just things like that, man. You know, and I was watching the Native American fella. And he was talking about these berries, and he was saying the Native American people have forgotten. You know, he's like, people spend all this money on dehydrators and this and that, and it was some kind of cherry. And he was saying it's on the vine, it's already pre-dehydrated. He said, we take this, and he said his grandmother would take it and make like a soup with it, rehydrate it, and he said, oh, it was delicious. He said it was like pudding to them, you know, they love it. And he said you can get pectin from apples and things like that, make your jellies, and you know, it's there's a lot of knowledge out there, and a lot of people that know a lot more than I do, but I know enough to thrive in a bad situation. And I mean, self-defense, having firearms, that is a big part of it, but also the things that you can't overlook: communication, food, water. Yep. Trust me, you ain't gonna make it more than 3 days without water.
Yeah.
You will die.
You live on a side road or something, you got a bunch of neighbors half a mile apart, quarter mile apart. You know, it's good for everybody to have a radio up through there.
Yeah.
You know, the neighbor up the road say, watch out, you got this coming, you know. Yeah. Your electric's out, your cell phones is down, they won't work, you know.
And unfortunately,
the
majority of America, I from what I gather, doesn't live like Mr. Obvious and I. I mean, we live very rural. We're out here, and of course, we both have property and kind of have our own ecosystem. But I grew up in a city. Okay, I grew up right outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was, oh my God! I mean, they're just the massive humanity, and I saw it get crazier and crazier. That before I went off to the military. I thought it couldn't get any worse. I came back and oh my God, the population just boomed. And it was just overnight, it boomed. And you look at when I graduated high school, I think there were only 250 million people in the U.S. And now there's 100 million more. Resources are getting scarce, people. And if you live in the cities and stuff, you definitely need to have a bug out plan. You definitely need to have food rationed, and let me tell you something that's not often talked about. When you're starving, the first thing you're going to notice is someone who isn't. And I've been there. I was over in Afghanistan, and it was a bad situation, and we hadn't eaten in a long time. And believe me, when you start seeing people that are eating, you see it right away. He's
nice and fat. He's got plenty of food.
Yeah. Yeah. Or color. You'll see people you get emaciated, man. When you're starving and you haven't eaten and you're you kind of look like somebody that went on a drinking bender, and you're coming out, you got purple eyes, around your eyes, you're kind of walking around in the daze a little bit. But you'll notice someone that's got rosy cheeks and stuff. You'll notice that real quick. And I know that sounds crazy to a lot of you, but if you've ever been there, I'm telling you, people will go nuts. And they will want what you have. Educate the people around you. Stay in touch with the people around you. Care enough about your community to make sure that they're taken care of. Because if they're in a good way, then you're all going to be okay. If everybody's prepared, it's going to be all right. But it's the people that aren't prepared are going to be the ones that get dangerous. And they will get violently dangerous.
Yeah. And I'm not giving up my toilet paper.
No. no, we got oak trees and stuff. We're good. We got all kinds of
corn cobs.
Yeah, everybody wonders if that's Sasquatch out there. Nope, that's a last minute man. He's using a pine cone. Oh yeah. But anyway, all right. So we talked a lot here. I don't know if all this will make it into the final cut of the video, but I'd like to talk more about this. And if you guys are interested in seeing my pantry and kind of how I store food and things, I'd be happy to show you. Distilling the moonshine still, things like that. I know some guys that got those, so we can show you, and that's obviously for medicinal purposes. But we can do some neat stuff on that if people want to see it. So with that, is there anything else we talked about a lot here?
Yeah, a lot.
Was there really a focus?
Yeah.
We kind of lost focus.
Communication is the biggest focus.
That is the biggest focus.
Be able to communicate when the grid's down, the electric's off, your cell phone's down. This is the only thing you got left. Little battery operated radios, you can still communicate. So.
All right.
You got a shotgun, a rifle, and a 4-wheel drive. A country boy can survive. So.
That ought to be a song. Somebody ought to make that into a song. I think we'll get on it. So, all right. Well, with that, everybody, remember, keep your knives sharp, keep your powder dry.
Don't get caught with your pants down. Subscribe. Last Minute Man.